Bullet Club for life.
Ernie's connection, everybody, just to let you know, Ernie is currently living in Boston. But I do understand, and this is typical Ernie, right, Shan? We were with him all weekend. Didn't once mention that Monday was his 49th birthday. Happy birthday, Ernie.
Way to go, Ernie. Nice one.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I was just too focused on the amazing wrestling action we were seeing that it just slipped my mind.
No, it's just typical. It's typical of you. You're always so humble, always so understated. But I do hope Delilah treated you well, and I'm talking about Delilah Senior, not your daughter. So.
Yeah.
How old is
Thanks
she
for
now?
Making that distinction there. I appreciate that.
Yeah. How old is she?
She's
not your wife.
17.
Not your wife. I'm still so underslept. It's ridiculous, but Ernie checked into his hotel. He had flown in, and Shotgun Shan was the DD. He decided that he was going to take on that role, and it was a perfect role for him. Everything about this day seemed to run very smoothly. Let's give a little bit of a day in the life of the pay-per-view crew and Luke Force.
Well, it started out, I think, with probably the best way that a day can start, that an outing can start out, with the veggie burgers at Harvey's. So, we picked up Ernie at the hotel, we grabbed some burgers, and we were on the road. It was a flawless drive. We were right there at the Ted Reeves Center, I think. What, were we, an hour early?
Yeah, an hour early, or maybe even a bit less, actually. It was like the perfect timing, really. Yeah,
it was perfect. It was a beautiful day. Everything went smoothly, and it was just sort of signifying what was to come, because I think it was, at least in my experience, and I'm not trying to, go in for hyperbole here, but I will say that was probably the most thrilling and exciting wrestling experience I've had in my life, I would think.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of hyperbole on this show, but
well deserved. Needs to be.
Well deserved. And of course, Ernie had to do typical Ernie things and pack a chicken for the road.
Yeah,
he was
brought
like
my chicken. I brought a bag of potatoes as well.
That sounds like some kind of off-color slang. Pack a chicken for the road.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate that. It crossed the line.
There were moments I looked back there and I thought it was actually Sika that was riding the back seat. So, because there were chicken flesh flying everywhere, which is really great for two vegetarians too,
Yeah, and I do walk with that giant stick too. There's that.
Well, yeah, and the hair. People have talked about your hair before, looking a lot like Sika. So
exactly. And yeah, for me, my experience was just a great venue for this. I'd heard some other people had gone to some ROH shows there and that it was a really cool venue. And to be honest, I thought it'd be even bigger, but not even just the arena itself, but just the fact that it backs out onto just a really nice park and everything. And so during intermission, you could just kind of just go chill out there. We obviously saw some of the performers back there.
You sure did.
And the card itself was just unbelievable. Like, I really actually just looked at the official card for the first time today, and I can't believe we saw 15 matches, but in many ways it felt like more because it was so long. Like, they just gave us so much for whatever we paid for those tickets, $40. And I should add, I would probably say those are the best seats I've ever had for a live wrestling show before, and I think that really contributed to the awesomeness.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the way things went once we arrived at the venue. Parking was not too bad, was it, Shotgun Shan? We didn't have to pay anything.
It was dead easy. Anytime that Shotgun Shan doesn't have to pay for parking, Shotgun Shan is happy. Shotgun Shan refers to himself in the third person in these instances, and he always feels good about it. So.
Yeah.
And Shotgun Shan he didn't name himself Shotgun Shan.
No, man.
That's what makes that name so special.
That was earned, man. That was a street name.
It's true. It's true. A man that never bites his tongue, and I would hope that today, if there's any point you feel like the hyperbole is going just a bit too far, if there's things that I've overlooked about this event or that I may be hyping up too much and that need to be downplayed, feel free to do that as well. I know, Ernest is really good at that. He's really good at the, well, I got to be honest type of thing.
Well, look, before Ernie gets into his honesty, let me say something, and it's kind of a disclaimer, and I feel like I should say it now. You've kind of opened the door to it. As director of marketing for Wrestling Audio Revolution, I really try to stay unbiased, and I try to look at things through a more neutral lens, and not really. I mean, I might criticize an event, but I try to leave each of the federations on an equal level, and all the different organizations to get their same airtime. Let me just say this: if the show that we saw last Saturday is indicative of what Ring of Honor is putting on in all of their live events, then I would say they are hands down outperforming WWE and likely any other organization that's out there. I have never seen a show that was tighter, that offered like 15 matches, and you really didn't see the same thing twice. They managed to make every match special. Every match had sort of a different flavor or a different pace to it. Just a wide range of talent. And you could really tell from watching it, and you get this from watching their TV as well, that yes, they don't have a big budget for production, but they put it in all the right places. It never looked cheap to me at any point. I mean, I can't say enough other than to anyone that's listening, if you get the opportunity to go to a live Ring of Honor show, go. Sell a kidney if you have to. They're not expensive tickets, but, this kind of thing happens. I can't really, talk about other people's financial situations, but if you've got to sell an organ, do it. But go see the show, because I can't imagine being disappointed if it's even half what we saw on the show on Saturday night. That's my little disclaimer and testament there.
Ernie, your thoughts on sort of the production and the overall layout of the building?
Yeah, well, just a couple other thoughts about that. I mean, you mentioned, how our day went. I mean, obviously just walking into the arena, and virtually every star that we went there to see that night was just standing on the floor waiting to meet you behind a table. And so I think, you asked about production, but I mean, to me, it was more about the overall experience kind of thing, the live experience. And to just have those people so accessible was obviously incredible. And obviously you'll get into more details about that. But so just that to me was very solid. But yeah, the whole production I thought was excellent. The entrance was amazing. And one thing I even liked specifically was sort of like the ROH sort of boards or whatever they put up like on the divider in front of the fans. And they, like, a lot of guys threw them right in there, and like it just added a little bit more impact kind of thing. So yeah, I thought it was a terrific setup for sure. And yeah, just the whole experience, the live event experience was, I would agree with Shotgun Shan that it certainly outpacing any other wrestling organizations right now.
Yeah, those things really make a nice sound when you whip a guy into them too,
Yeah, it had a nice effect, definitely.
But in terms of the meet and greet, man, I got a few things to say about that. Funniest thing about the whole thing is that we kind of were ambushed by it. We were just walking around. Everyone was just, casual.
Milling about.
Yeah, just hanging out, and I'm talking about the fans, nobody seemed to be rushing in any particular direction, or it didn't seem like there was any, I don't know, it just seemed like you were at a wrestling show 45 minutes early, and you're just kind of listening to the music, and that's all. And all of a sudden, I kind of realized we were surrounded by all of the top stars of New Japan. Obviously, there were other guys too, like Kazarian, Daniels. We've met them before. We've seen them before. But the first guy I actually noticed was, this guy, you might have heard of him, Shinsuke Nakamura, the King of Strong Style. And I was looking right at him, and I said, this, like, I think actually, Ernest was the first one to say, well, the meet and greet's happening right here, right now. And right as he said that, before he even finished the sentence, I looked around, I'm like, there's Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. Nobody's there talking to them, but that's them at a table right there, the Bullet Club. Oh my God, over here, but is Tanahashi. Here's Naito. Here's Jushin Liger. Nobody's talking to them. And then you had Maria. Nobody was talking to her. You had, I forget, there were a few other people. Jay Lethal. People seemed to be around him.
Yeah, I was going to say, he had guys around him or kids around him pretty much the whole time.
But it seemed like,
getting in some looking at Maria in that point, too, as they were seated right beside each other. It was like a 2-for-1 kind of thing.
Matt Sydal was there, too, right?
Matt Sydal was there as well. But the guy that had a constant crowd, the guy that seemed to be constantly signing things, constantly taking pictures, was Shinsuke. Do you feel as though Shinsuke was the most over guy on the show?
I would say, yeah, I really would. I think not only because of, the reputation that he has and the fan base that he has, and obviously the people that were coming there to see the New Japan product, but the guy also just kind of gives off a charisma. And there was just something about him that even the other guys that were, just below him as far as being over, they didn't have. He was incredible. And I think not just his mastery in the ring, but just the way he carried himself outside of the ring, which was so different than the character we usually see. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing to see the fact that he can turn it on just like that.
Yeah.
And once you get the camera out, he can go from very, almost like shy in a way, but just very
humble.
He seemed really laid back. Yeah,
really laid back.
Very humble.
When I did get a chance to meet him, obviously these guys were not open for interview, and that was made very clear to the media that the New Japan stars wouldn't be doing interviews. Their English just isn't good enough. But so when we went up and met them, I said, welcome to North America. He kind of he giggled, and then he's like, thanks, man. Pretty much like in clear, perfect English. And then I said for something else, look forward to your match tonight. He laughed at that. But as soon as the camera comes out, this guy just is full Shinsuke King of Strong style mode. And I was impressed with that. One thing I would like to see moving forward though, because it did break my heart, to see Tanahashi and those guys sitting out there, and nobody going, especially Liger, like nobody going over there. But for maybe in the future, you could kind of gauge the interest to meet these guys before you bring them out there and have them do the whole Virgil thing of sitting at a table with nobody there. What do you think? Like, did they not do enough to protect the stars there, or do you think that their whole mentality is, well, you got to go out there and you start again here. You're in front of a crowd that doesn't fall over themselves to meet you, and you got to find a way to get to that point. I don't know.
Yeah, well, to me, it seemed to be more of a commerce, like a business decision that, like, all of you go out there and try to make as much money as possible. And I think that was likely the overriding thing. But I definitely see your point, and I think it's a valid one.
Just in the future, maybe you could sort of sell the tickets ahead of time or something, and see, if nobody wants to meet Naito or nobody wants to meet Liger or nobody wants to meet Tana, maybe you don't put them out there. I don't know. But at the same time, I thought it was pretty cool that that didn't ruin their night or anything like that.
I think a little bit what that perhaps what that part of the event suffered from was the same thing that we experienced at the beginning. It didn't quite look like there was anything going on, and there was no real lineups. I mean, you couldn't really tell where you were supposed to go. I think a lot of people maybe didn't even notice at first. It was very, very laid back, which I appreciated, and it certainly lent to some surreal moments when you turn around and realize you're 10 feet away from, Shinsuke Nakamura or Jushin Thunder Liger looking over at you and smiling or whatever. And so it was kind of an interesting thing. But I think in that way, I think maybe a lot of people just didn't quite understand what was going on.
We also don't know how many people had already gone and met them and taken their pictures at that point. Because once we had gotten there, they pretty much made the announcement of, 5 more minutes sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that was really interesting. I've never seen anything like that at a big time wrestling event where you literally just kind of are walking and you're among fans, and then all of a sudden you're among the top stars of New Japan.
Yeah.
Not only that, there was a moment, and I think I turned to Ernest and I said this. I said, "You see that guy back there in the white jumpsuit?" It's like,
yeah, that to me was a highlight of the night for sure. I forgot about that actually.
It was Kadani, who was like the Vince McMahon of New Japan. He is the boss of New Japan. And there was a moment where in my vision I had Gato, the booker, who really turned the business around from a booking standpoint. You had Kadani, who completely turned it around from a leadership standpoint. And then you had Tanahashi, who completely turned it around from a superstar standpoint. All in one shot. I'm watching all these guys, and Kadani definitely is a pimp, just kind of walking around, like scoping the scene. But again, Tanahashi and Naito and Liger, they still seem to just be joking around. Now, they might have been making fun of all the white people that don't know about them, but nonetheless, they seem to be in a good mood. And as Ernest mentioned, we went out to the baseball diamond there right before the show, and who should be sitting out there smoking a cigarette but the golden boy of New Japan himself, 7-time IWGP heavyweight champion, as I said, from a superstar standpoint, the guy that turned business around, Hiroshi Tanahashi, out on his phone smoking a cigarette. And I turned to Ernest, I said, for God's sakes, that's Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Yeah, definitely a cool moment for sure. And then, he was eventually joined by Maria as well.
She came out and got a light from him.
Yeah,
she got a light from him, and they sat out there.
Pre-event butt.
And, it was pretty crazy. One thing I also got to mention about New Japan, I love how their idea of business casual is like sweatsuits.
Yeah.
You put him in the tracksuit. Even the boss, he's in his tracksuit.
He was in it was the pimpest tracksuit though.
Was it a New Japan tracksuit?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. And there was stuff hung off of it too. It was pretty legendary.
And Tanahashi had the Nike socks, pulled way up, and the shorts, the sport shorts, and I think he had some Jordans on or something like that. But
yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was really a great introduction, I guess, to the entire night. Now let's get into the night because we don't have all night, so we should start to talk about the show. And as Ernie mentioned, and Shan, maybe you could talk about this for a moment. Absolutely incredible seats for this event. First of all, it's not a huge place to begin with, but we were on the side 5 rows back, the most space, and this was pretty much where all of the dives happened. And God, there were a lot of dives on this show.
It was a beautiful space to be in because we were only 5 rows from the front, and behind us was the tech crew, so you could stand up as whenever you wanted to without really blocking anybody. And the people in the risers beyond them certainly weren't having their view obscured, so you didn't have to worry that someone was going to start yelling at you for blocking their view. And yet, yes, you had this incredible view of the ring, and we were on the side where there was the most open space. So yeah, we saw so many crazy jumps and dives over the top rope and different extracurricular activities going on outside the ring. So it was that part of it unto itself was exciting, regardless of the product being offered. Having that kind of view was really special.
I don't know if it's his age or what, but I know that anytime there was some mat work, Ernie was quick to stand up, and he was really, interested in that mat work whenever they'd get on the mat. Is that an age thing, do you think?
No, for me it's definitely more of a height thing, being slightly vertically challenged. The camera crew tended to kind of get in the way, and so I just couldn't see whatever hold they had on. So, the great thing for me was being able to stand up, and then you could totally see really well. And even just the pinfalls too. There was some obviously insane near falls throughout the entire event. But it was easier for me to get a vantage point from it by standing up, and so that was again just a great element of the seats that we had, that we could just stand up and not really get in anybody's way.
And this is 4 weeks of Ring of Honor TV, which will begin this weekend. So check your local listings. I know in Boston you're telling me that they don't have Ring of Honor, and I looked actually on the Ring of Honor website. They are not in Boston. They do not have syndication in Boston. We need to change this, Ernie.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Yeah, you have Bell Satellite. If you're a fellow Canadian, you know what I'm talking about. And you can just search every channel for a show. And it came up on an ABC West Coast in standard def that I didn't subscribe to. So, I'm hoping it's released on some sort of DVD or Blu-ray disc at some point.
Now, why Boston?
Yeah, I don't know. Great wrestling town, obviously.
Okay, so that's why you moved to Boston. Or just it was a work thing, I guess, eh?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just a work thing. Okay. So anyway, there was the dark match before the taping started, and me and Ernie were just kind of getting back after seeing Tanahashi smoking butts in the back there.
Mm-hmm. And Maria.
And Maria, yeah, which was trippy too, because she's kind of the it girl of wrestling right now in a lot of ways, along with Lana. But anyways, dark match was some local talent, Pepper Parks, Romantic Touch, Rip Impact. They beat Ashley Six, Davey Vega, and Kenny Lush. I guess everything a dark match should be. Shotgun Shan, you saw the whole thing. I mean, it was just kind of a good warm-up.
It was a good warm-up. It was a bit of a comedy match. Romantic Touch was, doing his little gyrations and whatnot, and it was fun. It was actually a really decent dark match. I remember thinking when I was watching it that it was for a dark match, it was awfully good. So, not certainly nowhere near the best match of the night, but it was on par with the product that they offered overall. So I was happy with it.
So the taping started. Ernie, I know that, when you were in your late 20s and all that, you used to go to a lot of ECW shows. You used to cross the border illegally and go to the ECW shows. Did this crowd sort of bring you back to that a little bit?
Definitely. Maybe in some ways slightly less brutal, which is nice, but in terms of energy level, enthusiasm, funny chants, and all that good stuff, they certainly had it, and everybody was just going nuts.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you got to sort of reminisce a little bit.
Yeah, and I figured it would be, so it certainly didn't disappoint in that regard.
So the first taping started, and the crowd goes wild, and I'm really interested to see the tapings, how much we're on there, because I think camera-wise we were definitely in a very good spot. As Shan said, a lot of things happening on that side, so the War Boys may be making their ROH debut. I think they probably will be this weekend and for the next 4 weeks. So Nigel came out and he sort of talked about the Jay Lethal versus Jay Briscoe match that they're going to be doing at the next pay-per-view. TV title versus world title. We'll talk about that more as we sort of go through the tapings here. But first match of the night, in terms of the actual televised event, was Kushida, one of the hottest junior heavyweights in the world, taking on Will Ferreira. Now, this was our first chance seeing, most importantly, Kushida, who was over like Rover. And what a great entrance video, don't you think, Shotgun?
I do. I think it was a nice touch having the alternating shots of Kushida now and Kushida when he was a very young boy performing wrestling moves, obviously with aspirations to one day be where he is now. What a great match. Kushida was crazy over and it was well deserved. It was a great, exciting match that kind of set the tone for what was to come. I remember at the time watching it and going, oh my God, I don't know if they should have put this guy on first because how is anyone going to follow this? And yet they managed to all the way straight through to the main event. So, thumbs up for that match hugely.
Yeah, for sure. I was so excited to see him, as you mentioned, super over, great match. I think my only complaints about this one would be, one, it's almost a shame that he was on first. I think this is a match that if it happened a bit later in the card, we would probably rank it like among the top 2 or 3, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I think the way they kind of set the tone with him was also the length of the match. It was just over 5 minutes long, so a little bit disappointing there. But in terms of, just starting off with the blast and everything, it was perfect. And he was outstanding. To me, one of the biggest stars we saw on Saturday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it's funny about the intro. Like, it would be like if I showed up in WWE, they'd be showing, clips of me now and then clips of McFadden Mayhem. That's pretty much what Kushida's Titantron is all about. But yes, that is really Kushida, practicing his Stardust presses and practicing his moonsaults when he was just a kid. And he's a guy that spent a lot of time in Ontario, mostly in the Windsor area. And Shotgun, we talked about this a bit on the rides, just about how New Japan likes to send guys away. And it's not because they don't like them, it's because they do like them and they see something in them. But they just feel like, we've taught you all we can teach you about our style. You need to now travel the world and you need to learn and get seasoned in different places and learn different styles to make you the complete performer. And from Tanahashi, Nakamura, Okada, all 3 of those guys at times have been sent on these what they call excursions. So Kushida was a guy that got sent on an excursion to Ontario, Canada. And Kushida very familiar to Canada. In fact, his Twitter handle is actually Kushida Canada. So he loves Canada and Canada loves him. So it was good to see him. I actually saw him at intermission as well, just kind of hanging out, just sort of looking at fans and sort of getting them pumped up. So Kushida's super cool and again super fluid in the ring.
Yeah, that just makes me bummed out that we didn't drive to Windsor to go watch him wrestle. What were we thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, next up was Silas Young taking on Takai Watanabe. Now, I talked about excursions. Watanabe's another one. He's actually been in the States now for a few years. So he's somebody that they thought needed to go to North America. And this, again, like Shan said, very different from the Kushida match. Very much a mean guy match, you could say.
Mm-hmm. It was a character-driven match in a lot of ways. It wasn't so much about the competition level or the athletics in the ring, although we certainly did see a lot of it. But it certainly was very much a character-driven heel match. You were very conscious of what his character was supposed to be, and he played that very well throughout the entire match. I thought it was far better than what I expected. And he was Silas Young was a lot more agile and high impact than I'd expected too.
Yeah, he's got the Rick Rude voice, the Rick Rude face. But yeah, he's got that real, like, almost Stan Hansen gimmick, the last real man. He's a guy WWE could use, man. He's an old school heel. And a lot of the real stiff clotheslines and stuff like that. I thought both guys looked good. But Silas gets the win in this one. Now, next up, I believe this is when Ernie decided, you know what? Tonight's a special night. I think I'm going to have a beer. One beer, just one. But I think this is when he made his way to the beer stand, but you and I, Shotgun Shan, were glued by what we saw in the next match featuring Moose.
The guy comes in and he looks like another one of these, wow, we've got a big guy, let's do something with him. He actually impressed me in those.
He can move.
He can move. He can really move. So, yeah. But I'll let you proceed. It was quite a spectacle.
And the Decade decided that this was Colby Carino's night. Colby Carino has been doing the gimmick of the young boy, basically. He's the one that's doing the cooking and the cleaning and doing all the odd jobs, and he's the one on the bottom of the totem pole in this faction of BJ Whitmer, Adam Page, and Colby Carino. So they said, Colby, this is your night. Now, Colby's not even legal to drink yet. So this is always a little bit uncomfortable to watch Colby get his butt kicked like this. But nonetheless, this has to be one of the most shocking things we saw of the whole night. And Ernie, was in line, I think, at this point. What happened to Colby in this match?
Good Lord, it would be easier to say what didn't happen to Colby. I mean, he certainly didn't walk out on his own. Let's put it that way. Page and Whitmer sort of bailed out on him and said it was time for Colby to prove himself against Moose. And Moose basically, people like to use the term ragdoll and throw him around like a ragdoll. We legitimately saw it. Moose pitched Colby upside down into the barricade. Onto the barricade. I seem to remember him powerbombing him onto the apron from the outside, then into the ropes and having him slingshot off the ropes to the outside, and then eventually, finally, a third powerbomb onto the mats on the outside. And obviously Colby was finished at that point. Moose rolled him in and pinned him. It was a spectacle unto itself. Again, it was not a very long match, thank God, because I was watching going, this is really amazing, but please let it stop, because no matter how much Moose is protecting him, this kid is going to be doing.
He weighs $110 soaking wet.
Yeah. And I just keep thinking this poor kid's spine does not have the protection that these muscle-bound dudes have, and he just got trounced. But boy, it was entertaining. And as far as the storyline goes, it was really quite good.
The gimmick is that Steve Carino and BJ Whitmer are sort of arch rivals. To get back at Carino, they've taken on Colby, who's so desperate to be a wrestler, which is a shoot. I've talked to him about it. But so desperate to be a wrestler, so they're bringing him on as their young boy, and now Steve has to watch. Steve, who really plays, the heel commentator, but now they're sort of doing the sympathy thing of him having to watch his son, get beat up, and they're throwing him to the lions and all this stuff. So a cool gimmick, and it plays itself out again as we go through these tapings. The Briscoes, ROH World Champion Jay and Mark Briscoe, defeated the House of Truth with Jay Lethal in the corner, obviously. Straightforward TV match for the most part. But I really did think that Mark Briscoe was the star of this show.
Mark Briscoe is a huge star, isn't he? I mean, that's a guy who has a gimmick that's so finely tuned that it doesn't seem put on at all, although it must be. Just the crazy kind of wild man, monkey boy, kung fu hillbilly dude. I thought he was hilarious to watch. I couldn't take my eyes off him. I was almost disappointed when Jay eventually tagged in. But fantastic. I think a really fantastic match, considering that I really felt like the Briscoes were kind of, or that the House of Truth was pretty much overmatched for most of the match. You kind of knew the Briscoes were going to take it. But it was still really entertaining and tons of fun.
Yeah, they're a great team. They really are. Again, Mark Briscoe is entertaining every time he's out there. But after the match, we did see, I think I heard Ernest. He was 2 seats down, but I think I heard the Ernest giggle, which is usually followed by the Ernest wiggle. But I'm pretty sure I heard the Ernest giggle for the first time, and it was due to Jay Briscoe after the match taking Jay Lethal and giving him the Jay Driller, which is the underhook pile driver.
Yeah, that's a deadly maneuver. I quite enjoy that.
Yeah, we've seen that one before, and that probably brings you back to your ECW days with Kid Cash as well.
Yeah, definitely. Very good comparison there. Also felt like almost a little bit of a Bushwhackers vibe from the Briscoes, which I really enjoyed. They're really fun, but obviously a great team too.
Yeah, they're like the sheep herders.
Yeah,
they got an edge to them,
Yeah.
But they won the match with the Doomsday Device. It's at this point too where I kind of have to reference the fact that a lot of times you hear that the one problem with having really good seats for wrestling is that you get to see how fake it is. Would we all be in agreement right now that we experienced the complete opposite on this night?
I was horrified and terrified
many times,
and delighted simultaneously at the same time by just the brutality and the. I really saw things there I don't think I've seen before, at least not at a live event. And you're right, the intensity's turned way up. At least at this event, the intensity was turned way up. There was no, oh yeah, look, he barely hit him, or yeah, he was protecting him here. It really looked like most of these guys were just destroying each other, and it was pretty entertaining.
I definitely thought at more than one point in the evening, these guys did this last night, and when do they have to do it again? Because it's not going to feel good.
Yeah, and I watched night one, and those guys killed each other on night one. And then they came back the next night and killed each other again. And I got to say, I saw many things on that night, and this is good for wrestling, if you ask me. I saw many things that night that I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand how human beings do that one time in their life and get up, let alone 2 nights in a row, 4 nights in a week, or more. You know,
at the risk of injecting more of that hyperbole into the broadcast, I will say that the show kind of restored some of the magic to me that I hadn't really felt in a long time watching wrestling. Because again, there was that, wow, how'd they do it feeling, and wow, how'd they pull that off? That was crazy. So, and the characters I thought were really good, considering, I mean, I do follow Ring of Honor, but I'm not a devout Ring of Honor guy. I can't tell you everybody on the roster and what their history was, but I really felt I connected with most of the characters and most of the storylines that were going on in that show, all as sort of a one-shot. So I think that's testament to the way they packaged it and the way that it was presented to the audience.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I would just say that was another element that reminded me of the old ECW shows, is it restores that magic of these guys are really hurting each other bad, and I guess that's part of the reason why we're there for, I guess.
Absolutely, and we're going to talk a lot more about it, and a lot more of brutality took place. But we saw earlier in the show, I didn't reference it, but Christopher Daniels and Kazarian came out, and they basically set up in the first show that next week on Ring of Honor, which we're like, that's, half hour from now. That's cool. So they said next week on Ring of Honor, Red Dragon versus The Addiction. When they said that Bobby Fish wasn't there, which I had heard he wasn't there the night before, but I thought maybe they'd fix the problem. I was slightly disappointed at the same time. How can you really be disappointed with this show? So Red Dragon was not there. Kyle O'Reilly was there. They said they were going to do a handicap match. I'm never a fan of handicap matches.
Yeah, by far the best handicap match I've ever seen.
I would say too, yeah, because I mean, when you know that the handicap match is coming, that's only one or two ways it's going to go, and with this one, they really did manage to inject that sense again that, oh my God, this guy might actually win. This one guy might actually beat two guys, and it's not John Cena, fighting, two jobbers or something like that. This is Kyle O'Reilly, who's a competent wrestler, but he's against two of the best in the world and very capable champions. So yeah, there were many moments where I kind of felt like, wow, he's actually going to beat them. Obviously, in the end, he didn't, and that certainly kept things, on the logical end and kept it to save the feud for going forward. But it's still a very entertaining match. Boy, Kyle O'Reilly's a great wrestler.
Yeah, it's like he worked for two people on that night. He's like, I've only got myself. I'm going to have to work for Bobby as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So all kinds of great stuff, in particular when he stacked Kazarian and Daniels on a chair and ran off the apron and gave the big hesitation drop kick. Thought that was pretty great. But the match ended when Kyle got the arm bar on Kazarian and Daniels broke it up with the tag belts for the disqualification. So, a fine ending in terms of moving the story forward. And, the heels cheating. They couldn't even beat one guy. So I thought that was pretty good for the story. And then Matt Sydal, ACH, they ran out from the back and sort of ran off The Addiction. So again, nothing bad on the show so far. Everything has been good so far, really good so far. And the streak continues as we see Dalton Castle. Let's talk about Dalton Castle for a moment.
Dalton Castle is really one of the best characters I've seen in quite a while. Not just because they've put together the peacock gimmick where he comes in with the two very sort of effeminate twin boys that wave the peacock feathers and, basically fawn over him. And then he turns his jumpsuit into, by lifting up the arms, turns it into sort of like this billowing butterfly outfit. But just the level of commitment to the facials and the poses and the posturing and the style of everything he did in the match, it was really believable. And that I'm a sucker for somebody that will commit to a gimmick, whether it's good or bad. And in this case, there's just that sort of 100% commitment to what he's doing and to really making it as good as he can. And the guy was just mesmerizing in the ring, especially considering who he was fighting.
Now, Ernest, you've lived through Gorgeous George. You've lived through Austin Idol. I mean, you've lived through a lot of flamboyant heels. How do you rate Dalton Castle? A very colorful gimmick. Would you not agree?
Oh, definitely. And even just his whole live performance. Like, he was fully committed, absolutely crushed everything. Like, every cue, every, fan reaction was just perfect. And, yeah, he's very over. I was, I guess not surprised, but having not seen him before, I was surprised initially that how crazy the fans are going for him. Because for me, Jushin Liger was more or less number 2 of the people that I most wanted to see at this event. So I wasn't paying as much attention to Dalton Castle just because I was so stoked to see Jushin Liger.
Of course. And did I ever give you a softball there? Dalton Castle, colorful gimmick, don't you agree? The guy's robe has wings, for God's sake.
Yes, yeah, and obviously what you mentioned, the peacock gimmick in general, that sort of covers it as well.
Right. So the peacock was there to take on the legendary. Now, we talked about the business casual with the jumpsuits.
Yes.
Liger has his business casual mask. He has his mask that's very sort of just modified, very, what's the word? Modest. That's the word. Very modest. His business casual mask. But then when he comes out in full gimmick, one of the loudest pops of the night. I said that I thought Shinsuke seemed like the most over guy, singles wrestler. It's so hard, man. There were so many guys that were almost right at that exact same level. But anyway, Liger was definitely up there in terms of loudest reactions. I talked to you, Shan, about, Daniel Bryan and sort of his style having to change, and using Liger as a great example of a guy that can still pull out all the stuff he used to do. It's just he doesn't do it every night. He sort of picks and chooses when he does it. For whatever reason, this was one of the nights he decided to do it. This was a big night for Liger. He even did the running flip off the apron, which was right on our side. And again, when he did that, I was just like, wow, Liger has got the working shoes on. He's taking this really seriously right now.
I love that about him. And how old did you say he is?
He's 50 years old.
50 years old, my God. And I mean, he really didn't seem as though he'd missed a step. I mean, maybe he had, fewer big spots in the match than he might have had in the old days, but the ones that he hit hard, and it was very exciting. It was a great match overall. We talked about match of the night, and we listed, several matches. This one probably wasn't there, but I would say it wasn't far off. It was such an exciting, at least as far as presentation goes, it was such an exciting, fun matching of styles that was a great contrast of styles that made it entertaining.
Yeah, Ernest was really putting this match over.
Yeah, it was a fantastic match. Again, one that I wish they would have maybe given them a little bit more time. It was about 10 minutes, which was still great for sure. But, to me, Liger does not look like a man who's 50. He wrestles like a man in his late 20s or mid-30s. He's still got it. Never lost it. That was definitely one of the best matches of the night for me. And both performers were just spectacular.
Yeah, he hit all of his big. I mean, he hit the top rope Hurricane Rana. He hit the running flip to the outside. He hit the Liger bomb. And Dalton kicked out of the Liger bomb. Dalton, too. I mean, I knew he was flamboyant. I knew he was charismatic. That guy is an athlete. He's got a lot of really creative spots. He can go in the ring, and not just in that heel performance kind of way of, being a chicken shit. He's actually got a lot of really cool offense, and I thought some of the most cool things in this match were stuff he did as well, too. So, anyway, Liger hits him with the Liger bomb for 1-2.5, and then picks him up, gives him the vertical drop brain buster. 1, 2, 3. Jushin Liger wins. Huge reaction, and a thank you Liger chant, which I can't, that brings a bit of a tear to my eye, I must say. Again, to put this into perspective for people of Jushin Liger, when Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, arguably two of the most influential wrestlers on this style of wrestling especially, when they first came to Japan, the guy that they looked up to because he was sort of what they wanted to be, he blended all these styles, he could do the power stuff and the high flying and the power bombs and everything, was Jushin Liger. He was their hero, and here he is at 50 years old, still putting on a great match, and a guy that came back from a brain tumor, in the peak of his career, 1996, was diagnosed with a brain tumor, came back and has just had a great career ever since, and a really positive guy in the locker room. And I thought, that really showed in this match. He took the time after the match to really give it up to the fans, and then to really put over Dalton Castle, typical Liger. Just like Ernest, So
exactly.
No, I feel very fortunate to have seen such a legend as Liger. We're very fortunate to have seen that and, witnessed that moment.
The first match of Nitro, Brian Pillman versus Jushin Liger.
Yeah, I was thinking about that actually throughout the match, to be honest.
You know what I was thinking about before we move on just quickly here was the match he had with the Great Muta. And maybe we need to get together next time and watch that one, because it was the debut of a character within the match. I'm talking just two guys, nobody else ran in. The debut of an alter ego called Kishin Liger. Spewed the mist into the Great Muta's eyes after he ducked the Muta's mist, and pulls off the bodysuit. He's got his face all painted up. He's got tattoos all over his body. It's the very first time Liger had ever been without his mask, and he debuted this character within the match where he went to the next level, and he debuted Kishin Liger. And he spewed the mist at the Great Muta. He still lost the match, but the story was that he went to that place, that dark place, because he was too nice of a guy. And over the years, Kishan Liger has made more appearances in Jushin Liger matches. So anyway, that's what I was thinking of, is that Muta match. But again, he's 50 years old. This isn't going to last forever, and we got to see it, and he put on a great performance. Now, next up, Cheeseburger. Cheeseburger was in the house taking on Brutal Bob Evans, the most Port Hope name ever.
I've heard that sounds crazy.
And what was your first impressions of Cheeseburger, guys?
Cheeseburger, I was shocked at how over he was with the fans, but then when he got it on, I kind of got it. I mean, he's kind of a comedy character, he's kind of funny, but the guy really went, I think the guy went full speed and put on a admirable match. I mean, it really was the little skinny guy against the kind of paunchy older, guy at the end of his career match. So, I mean, it was really meant to be those strange parallels between the two. But overall, I think they put on a decent match and a crazy finish. I was not expecting this at all.
Ernest got a cheese chant going too, which I appreciated. Not cheeseburger, just one syllable, cheese.
Yeah, everybody loves cheese. I definitely think for me this match would represent, I sort of sound like a broken record, but another ECW-esque moment was the finish in this match, of course. I believe it was a sidewalk slam through a table on the outside, and just the pop and the energy, that really felt like a hardcore, for sure, ECW moment. And Cheeseburger, to me, not in terms of stature, but had almost a little bit of like the Mikey Whipwreck thing going on, like the guy that used to be the ring crew or did whatever he did, and now he wants to be a wrestler. And I think the fans have really reacted well to that.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Again, more ECW parallels, He was the guy that would come out with the towel and de-sweat the ropes and everything like that. And he's become this sort of, lovable loser. And Bob Evans is not a serious character. He's mostly a manager. And he kind of he's like Bobby, he'll get in the ring now and then. So they were doing just a comedy match. And again, another match that was completely different from anything else. And this goofy comedy match, entertaining, but a goofy comedy match ended with this huge ECW spot, and the place went nuts, and that was the end of that. So, next match was the main event of this particular episode 2. Bullet Club, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson versus IWGP Tag Team Champions, The Kingdom, Matt Taven, Michael Bennett, with Maria. And this match, I had made it pretty clear that I did not really care to see this match live. I was a little bummed out. It was on our show. This match delivered too. What can you say?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it either. And you know what? I did I guess I had my nose in the air going into this match thinking it would be the one time that I would be looking at my watch, and it certainly wasn't. Great match all the way around. I was impressed with Taven. I was impressed with everybody in this match, to be perfectly honest. Hard-hitting, super fast match. Gallows and Anderson, always entertaining, always fun, but the sheer size of Gallows, I think I was kind of blown away when you saw him live. And they put on a very entertaining match with the sort of underlining storyline being that Anderson was always being tempted by Maria and really not able to focus on the match. So I thought it was great. I actually found myself, ranking that rather highly on the card by the end of the night.
Taven hit a moonsault on the outside to Gallows, and his feet sort of touched Gallows' fingers on the way down. He pretty much got all canvas. And that was one of the first times of the night that I truly did think somebody was seriously injured. But if he got a stinger or if he got a concussion, he kept going. And you're right, Taven, seeing him live, I have a new appreciation. He's pretty damn good. He just needs to get rid of that headband. And the same thing goes for Trent Beretta. But if they got rid of the headbands, I think I would rate them at least another quarter star higher than I do now.
I agree.
But no, Gallows, I was impressed with him. He can move. I know Anderson can move, and I was impressed with him, as I always am. I love Anderson. But, Gallows, I was impressed with him, and they kind of did a thing. This match wasn't too long. Do you guys know how long this one was?
It was
about 10 minutes as well.
Oh, was it 10 minutes as well? Okay.
Yeah.
And it ended, they did their finish, on the outside to Bennett, and then they did some stuff with Maria inside where they looked like they were going to give the finish to Maria. And then they ended up giving it to Taven on the chairs. And Bullet Club over like crazy in Toronto. And the fans reacted well to this match, and really no complaints. And this seems like this was more than anything just to build the angle going into the next New Japan show, where they will be taking on the Bullet Club again and getting their title rematch. So it looks like that's sort of a cross promotion. They're building each other's angles for each other's pay-per-views, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and in the end, this one ended in a double disqualification, actually.
Right, double DQ. So it just
Yeah.
all broke down into chaos.
Yeah.
And next up, War Machine, Hanson and Ray Rowe defeated the Decade, Adam Page and Colby Corino. We saw Colby for the second time. And War Machine's pretty impressive, I gotta say, for two guys that look like sort of the Blues Brothers, or the Bruise Brothers, whatever promotion you're in. I don't know. I actually think that those guys are pretty damn agile as well, similar to a lot of other people I saw on the show, Moose and Gallows. I was impressed. They move really well, those guys.
They do. You know what? They were, again, people where if you judge them by the cover, you're going to expect sort of slow-moving brawlers. And they did a lot of really crazy, fast, high-flying moves, high-impact moves. I was pretty excited to see that match. And it nicely continued the storyline with Colby, again, with him just getting trounced and abused by his own teammates, kind of throwing him to the wolves. And Colby taking the second beating of the night, where if you weren't worried enough about him before, you certainly were by the end of this match, although thankfully it was much shorter.
Right, so they got their finish, which is similar to the old Smoking Guns finish. It's a lot more impressive when you see these two guys do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did it on Colby, I think, on Colby, and then they won that match. And afterwards on the floor, I guess Steve Corino got into a real shouting match with BJ Whitmer. The crowd was chanting Corino, so that was good. Both Corinos were really over on this show. Going up next, second appearance of Moose. Great entrance too for Moose, and the way the crowd reacts for him, you can't help but get into it, even if you're not a Moose fan. But Moose took on Cedric Alexander. Now they've been doing something here on ROH where Moose is undefeated. He's been undefeated now better part of a year, I think. Had lots of great stuff in this match, I thought. Cedric Alexander and Moose, Shotgun Shan.
Cedric Alexander and Moose. Well, I mean, when Cedric came in, he certainly gave a little inspirational speech at the beginning, saying that he just needed that one win. And, this was Moose. He was undefeated. I guess I underestimated what they were going to pull off for this show, and I guess I forgot it was TV, because I thought, well, Cedric will put on a decent show, Moose will, trounce him, and that'll be it. Couldn't have been further from the truth. Cedric put on a great match. So did Moose. A lot of crazy moves. I had no idea Moose could do such a high drop kick. And in the end, Moose, as they've teased this angle where Veda Scott is trying to get Moose to cheat and be more aggressive, passes him the knucks, and Cedric gets the knucks, knocks out Moose, and breaks the streak and gets some momentum back. So it was a pretty exciting match. It was a really great clash of styles, because you had a super fast, super high flying guy against the sort of immovable force of Moose. So it was pretty exciting.
Yep, I would say another great match of the night, another standout match that, you didn't really see it coming, and then it just delivered on just about every level.
Absolutely classic, the way that he hit him with the knucks and threw them outside, and you actually heard the ting. That was awesome. I love the fact that you could actually hear the foreign object hit the ground when it went to the outside. So that was sick. Going into this next taping, Nigel McGuinness came up for the second time, and this is where they did the contract signing, and the crowd was into this as well. The crowd was chanting contract signing. And Shan, what do you think of this angle of uniting the TV title and the world title?
I love it. I really hope that it plays out that Jay Lethal gets his time at the top. I don't think you could have a guy that would do a better job. And that's no offense to Jay Briscoe, but I think maybe Jay's time at the top has maybe hit its limit there, at least for now. But I think it's Jay Lethal's time. He's super over. He's super polished. The guy just has an energy when he's in the ring. I mean, we really didn't see him wrestle at this show at all.
No.
And yet he was so memorable and so charismatic and interesting. I really hope that's the way it's going. I think the only drawback in this match is that you can't call the guys by their first name or people are going to get confused. The opportunity of a Jay versus Jay match, I think, is probably nothing that anyone had anticipated. So now we've got two Jays in one match. Let's hope that ends with Jay Lethal taking the title, because I think it'll be good for ROH.
Yeah, Lethal definitely seemed to be more over than Jay Briscoe. I'll tell you that on this night. The crowd was chanting next world champ as he came to the ring. And guys, I watch ROH TV. We saw the best 4 weeks of ROH TV possibly ever. So anyway, so they did that angle, and then Briscoes and Lethal left the ring. Up next, Hiroshi Tanahashi and Tetsuya Naito taking on ACH and Matt Sydal. Just a whole bunch of fun shit happened in this match. Tanahashi, although people weren't lining up to see him, he seemed like to be one of the most over guys of the night. Lots of New Japan chants. It's kind of funny that New Japan seemed more over, and not just from the chants and the reactions, but me and Ernest were talking about this as we were walking in. I saw more New Japan and Bullet Club shirts than I saw anything that entire night. And the reactions to the New Japan guys seem to be, if you also consider AJ to be a New Japan guy, I would say much bigger than the ROH reactions. What do you think?
Oh, definitely. And with the other shirt, too, being Nakamura. It was Nakamura, Bullet Club, or just New Japan shirts everywhere. And, yeah, super over. The match in general was just absolutely incredible. To me, one of the top 3 best matches of the night. All the performers were incredible. And, yeah, as much as the New Japan guys were over, there was still great chance for Matt Sydal and their team as well. So it was just such an energy-filled match between the crowd and the incredible performance by the wrestlers. It was just perfect.
You know, I think a couple of things happened for me in that match. Number one is I really became a huge Naito fan. Not that I wasn't before, but I hadn't seen that side of his personality, the huge entertainer and the kind of super expressive kind of. I'm sure he doesn't do it as much in the New Japan matches, but in this he was really going kind of crazy. He was super fun, and I also loved the almost one-upsmanship that you kept seeing between these two teams, is who would do something crazier and who would do something with more high impact. Sydal was awesome. ACH was awesome. They were all fantastic. And again, it was a beautiful clash of styles because ACH and Sydal are so high-flying. Naito and Tanahashi do high-flying as well, but they're also impact in the ring matches. So you had sort of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and again, what really stands out is the fact that Tanahashi, and I'd kind of been preparing you guys, you know, if Nakamura and Tanahashi aren't what you expect, just bear in mind that they're both completely thrashed right now. And New Japan is definitely trying to rest them, moving, you know, into the summer and the G1 and everything. You've got to rest these guys. But I definitely did not see that in this match. If that's Nakamura and if that's Tanahashi just sort of coasting, like I can't even imagine being at like a Wrestle Kingdom or something and seeing them go 100%. It seemed like they were just working their asses off. They seem to go into this like, okay, maybe these people don't know us that well. We're going to have to go and we're going to have to start from the bottom again and we're going to have to win them over. And they did not take it easy on this night, at least not to my eyes anyway.
They were running at a much higher level than what you would have expected for a house show or for a TV taping. You know, again, I think we've been kind of conditioned to the WWE style, and it's not a slam against them, but it's just a different style. It's more a style based more on longevity because of their heavy touring. But with these guys, all the stops were pulled out, and I agree with you. If that was Tanahashi or Nakamura
at 60%,
at 60%, my goodness, because those guys, they didn't hold back. There was nothing that I was waiting for them to do that they didn't do. They hit every button, and they went through sort of every hoop that we could have asked them to go through in these matches.
Naito was definitely, I'd say, one of the most charismatic guys on that show. It seemed like on that night, and the big knock on him in Japan is that he's not charismatic. So they think he's great in the ring, and he is. He's excellent. But the feeling of him in New Japan is, yeah, he's going to be that guy that's sort of hovering at the top, but he's not a top guy. You know, he just doesn't have the charisma. And on this night, when he's just having fun, I guess, he was extremely entertaining, extremely charismatic, and it kind of took me aback, too. I was like, this isn't the Naito I'm used to seeing on New Japan World. But, yeah, great match. I mean, to talk about just quickly a few of the spots, one of the funniest things we were all popping for was the abdominal stretch when Tanahashi was playing, I think it was ACH's rib cage like a guitar.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest things I've seen in a live wrestling event ever.
And they were kind of playing, you know, the Japanese guys were playing, you know, sort of slight borderline heels for this match, which I thought was interesting as well. And ACH hit by far the craziest dive of the night when he does that running flip dive, but he propels himself off the middle rope. And this guy, my God, he got so much air, and Naito and Tanahashi caught him perfect. They were cool with everything, it seems like. There was a spot where Evan Bourne ran at Tanahashi with a knee, and my God, I thought he knocked all of Tanahashi's teeth out.
It was a crazy spot. Yeah, you could really hear it. I mean,
you saw the sweat fly right up his face.
Yeah, there were so many moves like that where I thought, my goodness, how is he doing this without how does anybody get up from that? And I guess that was the restoring of the magic of wrestling, because you really kind of bought into this fact that they were trying to kill each other, you know. So,
and I mean, what we expected to happen happened. Tanahashi didn't get pinned, you know, beat Evan Bourne, I think it was, who took the fall with the high fly flow. But there were moments in that match where I absolutely believed, okay, Naito and Tanahashi are going to put over ACH and Matt Sydal. And there were so many near falls where I thought, oh my God, they're actually going to have Tanahashi job. This is crazy. Following that, right up, with Shinsuke Nakamura versus one of Shan's favorite in-ring guys, Roderick Strong. Really, I guess this would be two of your favorite in-ring guys.
It really was. I mean, Nakamura obviously is my all-time favorite of pretty much anybody that's wrestling currently. I'm more into Nakamura than anybody. But Roderick Strong is such a versatile and kind of exciting guy when you see him in the ring. As far as his mat game goes, he's the master of the backbreaker, and you can tell why when you watch all these crazy, innovative moves he puts on. And in a show where we were seeing so many high spots, I really thought that another of the highlights of the card was Roderick Strong's mat game. The moves that he did, on the ground, I thought were pretty exciting.
Now, Ernest, I got to ask you, you've seen all the greats. You've watched wrestling your whole life, from the late Vern Gagne to Ric Flair to Hulk Hogan. Would Nakamura be up there with the most charismatic performers you have seen live?
Yes, I would say that.
Because I know you would be honest if you didn't feel that way.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't lie to you guys. I couldn't do that. To me, the sort of most recent sort of thought that's come into my mind in terms of comparison is almost sort of the current Brock Lesnar to me of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Very different in so many ways. Don't get me wrong. They don't look alike or anything. But just in terms of like intensity, power, and also brutality, like some of the knees, some of the slaps, some of the punches, like, it's like he's really trying to beat you up badly. So that's, I don't know, a comparison that really sort of stands out for me. But yeah, I would definitely say he's one of the great performers that I've ever seen. And, the crowd obviously realized that and responded in kind. But of course, there was some, strong chants as well. Like there was a really good back and forth there. But yeah, just another, again, we're so fortunate to have seen such a huge star like Nakamura.
My mind was completely blown with the intensity of this match.
Yeah, it really was. In a show where there was so much intensity, this one really stood out as, I think, probably the most intense match because there was no comedy in it. There was it was all business. And again, Nakamura, we've talked about how charismatic he is. That carried over not only through his entrance, but into his actual in-ring work. Everything he did was stylized. Every punch, every kick, every move, got a real reaction from the crowd. So I was entranced watching that match. I'd said ahead of time, I said that I think this is going to be match of the night, and I won't take it back. There were others that I think were on the same level. But for overall presentation and just based on Nakamura's presence in that ring and Strong's performance, I would say this was my match of the night. If I had to pick only one and I wasn't allowed any ties, this was my match of the night.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Strong hitting all the backbreakers on Nakamura. Like, he's just got so many different cool variations of the backbreaker, and he's taken this big guy. That was nothing that stood out, is just how big, Shinsuke is. He was towering over me, wasn't he?
He was, if you look in the photos that we've put up.
I thought he was hunching down in the photos. What a unique performer he is from the standpoint of he can go into a match, no high flying, no chairs, no tables, but yet, by the end of that match, you feel like you've seen the most hardcore thing you've ever watched in your life, and all he used was his feet and his hands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and his knees as well. Like I think the high spot was that diving knee to the outside. I actually got kind of a cool picture of that, and that I was like, how is he going to stand again after taking that?
Well, and he did the whole dance, and that was right on our side. So I'm interested to see. He did the whole little dance before he does the running knee on the outside too, right before he does the one off the apron. So I'm interested to watch the tapings and see. If we're on there for that, because if we are, I'm sure we're just losing our minds. This match was great, absolutely amazing. The crowd showed nothing but respect for Roderick Strong after the match with a thank you, Roddy chant. So that was that. Now, the next match was unfortunately, it really got shit on bad. It was the only match of the night that did. Kind of a shame. Michael Elgin, his dream is to go to New Japan. He's been very clear about that. He is very good. He did not show it on this night. Going in there with the booker, Gato, and this was probably going to be the night where Gato whispered in his ear, you're in. It did not happen, and I just can't help but feel like in front of his own town, they shit on him the way they did. And it must have been, very heartbreaking for Michael Elgin. And we don't need to say much else about it. But from what I'm hearing, they did like him, and they are interested in bringing him in. So it looks like all hope is not lost for Michael Elgin.
Well, I think, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. But
no, go ahead.
I think that Elgin suffered from the fact that he was sandwiched between two huge main event matches at the end of a 4-hour broadcast. I mean, I think that was the only time in the show that I was really looking at my watch and going, how much longer is this going to go on? And I think if I'd seen it earlier in the night, I wouldn't have felt that way. It was just, it was bad timing to put him in a buffer match. And hopefully they took that into consideration when they evaluated his performance. I didn't think it was a bad match at all, and I didn't think he did poorly. I just don't think that it certainly couldn't hold up to what came before it or what came after it. And it had to be, I would say, the weakest match on the card just simply because of that.
The other thing, too, that was a shame, and I'd heard this talked about on a lot of podcasts, is that he fought Tanahashi the night before in Toronto, and it was a good match, but not, it wasn't his best performance again. And you could really tell that he was nervous as shit going into that match with the ace of New Japan, knowing how much rides on this. Because the New Japan, the Ring of Honor schedule, just look at it, go on their website. These guys have a lot of time on their hands, to fill up with other bookings. And New Japan is where everybody wants to be right now. So everybody's working their asses off to get into New Japan, and Michael Elgin's one of those guys that's really got his heart set on it. Elgin beat Gato, whose best days are behind him, but Gato's very cool about he just likes to wrestle, get in a 5-minute match and just get in there and put someone over, and that's Gato. So anyway, that match happened. Next up, though, was the main event, and then we'll talk about this. We're running a little bit long in the tooth here, guys, but let's talk about the main event, and then we can get out of here.
I think the intros to this match were almost as entertaining as the match itself. When the people got into the ring, the crowd singled out every single performer, or in the case of the Young Bucks, the duo of the Young Bucks, gave them a huge ovation. Everyone got a massive cheer, an individual cheer. They even pulled out Trent and Rocky Romero individually, got them to pose. They got Red Shoes to jump up and get a little chant going. Everybody got their moment, and it was really exciting and fun in that way. It was a super appreciative audience, and I love to see that.
Yeah, that was definitely a highlight of the whole night for me. Really good point, Shan. Just, getting everybody to get their own chants in. The crowd was so hot, so into it. And, it's just the streamers going in the ring. There's streamers obviously throughout the night, and you can, comment how annoying you find that or whatever. But I think in a huge match like that, for me, it kind of adds a bit to the atmosphere, and that was cool to see. And then the in-ring action, what can you say? I mean, almost every move was a move I've never seen before.
Before we go too farther, Okada's jacket. Holy crap.
His entrance in general, he was one of the biggest stars we saw that night.
In terms of crowd reaction and the Okada money being thrown that was a great visual. And I'm sure that's just going to look awesome. It's going to look like it's raining from the ceiling. Yeah. The gear of these New Japan guys, in particular Tanahashi, Naito, and definitely the guy with the best gear, you're not getting this one off the rack. Okada's fucking ring jacket. Jesus, my God. And he is big. I didn't realize how big Okada is. Yeah. And he's a lot more tanned in person. But yeah, I mean, that beginning part where everybody got singled out, even Trent. I was wondering, because they love Rocky and they love AJ and they love the Bucks and they love, everybody. But Trent is just kind of new to the whole scene, and they gave him his respect. Seeing Red Shoes in person was a huge thrill for me. Seeing Tiger Hattori, the legendary. I am experiencing jaw problems. I think I pulled a muscle in my jaw, and I absolutely attribute it to that match. Because if my mouth wasn't hanging open in amazement, it was wide open screaming. And I mean, Shotgun Shan, he's not, I wouldn't say you're reserved at wrestling events, but you're not really the type to get up and start screaming and all that stuff. And you were on your feet, shouting, clapping. Close to what? Like, it was about 11:30 by this point?
It was. It was a late show. And let me just say this right now. It was almost 4.5 hours if you count the intermission. And it felt like about 2.5. And that's testament to how quickly the matches went and how exciting it was. I didn't feel at any point like, oh my God, I've been here for 4 hours. I was just waiting for the next thing to happen. It was so exciting. This match was so fun. And, they positioned it so well by putting it at the end of the night. Because as you said, there were Bullet Club shirts everywhere. And as much as Anderson and Gallows are Bullet Club, I think that the core really is AJ and the Guns, and the Bucks. I'm sorry, AJ and the Bucks. and I think that the crowd was just stoked for them. But Okada and Roppongi Vice got a really nice reception too. So it was well positioned. It was definitely the main event. It was so exciting. So, and I mean, the Bucks are fun. That's the thing that I always get on TV, and I got it even more watching it live, was that the Bucks, they're just having a good time, and it translates so nicely to a live audience.
It was definitely one of the most fun matches I've ever seen, and I would definitely put it for me as my top match of the night. It was almost at that point, obviously it was getting quite late, and you almost had a bit of the feeling like this is almost too much good wrestling in one time, if such a thing is possible. Yeah, for sure. But, and so I think that almost makes you almost sort of forget some of the just incredible moves we saw. Like, I just saw some fan video on YouTube today, and just little things like, sort of leveraging the guy holding the one tag team, the one buck holding him with his legs on the ropes, while the other buck does like a swanton bomb down onto him. Like, I've never seen anything like that ever. And that was just like a move that happened in the middle of the match.
Oh, I know. There were too many spots to even mention. But I mean, a few of the big ones, obviously, they did the Legion of Doom. Roppongi Vice did the Legion of Doom spot on the outside, off the apron. That was ridiculous. Nuts. They did all kinds of stuff. I mean, I talked about Jushin Liger feeling like this was a night to pull out all the stops. The Bucks did their super finisher. Who doesn't love a super finisher? They usually do the Meltzer driver, which is like the spike tombstone. But on those big special occasions, they pull out, you got to go left, joystick right, you know, A, B, 3, you know, like the old video game. They pull out the super Meltzer driver, which is like a 450 into a tombstone. Toss the one light-haired buck in the air, and he comes down and spikes him down with the Styles Buster. The dark-haired buck, Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson sings about 3 seconds of the second verse of Thriller, and then he comes in and grabs, I believe it was Trent Beretta, in the Meltzer driver. So from the Styles Buster to the Meltzer driver, the super Meltzer driver with the 450 flip. From there, they hold him, and AJ comes along and scoops him up in position for the Styles Clash. And of course, that's not enough. You got to go just one step further. A double super kick to the face, and then AJ hits with the Styles Clash. Every match AJ's in New Japan, he wins with the Styles Clash, and that continued tonight for these ROH crossover shows. And 1, 2, 3, the Bucks and AJ win in the main event. Again, just incredible. Never seen anything like it live, and I can't wait to see the way that it comes off on TV.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw a live show that was being recorded, and I was just as excited to see the replay, because for me, I mean, even with the great seats we had, there were so many things I want to see from another angle or closer up, and the energy of everything. I can't wait to see the way that it comes across on TV.
So that was the show, and then Okada gave AJ the Rainmaker clothesline after the match, which, again, setting up their upcoming match at Dominion. And the Kingdom came and celebrated with Chaos, so they're doing a little bit of a merging there of those two factions. And that was the show, and we were out of there, and driving home was a breeze. Is that pretty much a good way to explain the night? We got an ice cap on the way home.
Ice cap kept me going, but I didn't really need it, man, because I was really, really still pumped up from the show. That's really saying something about a 4+ hour show, that you don't come out tired. I came out really excited still. So, yeah, way to go, guys. I give a huge endorsement to Ring of Honor and New Japan on this. Mostly, down to Ring of Honor for putting it together and bringing it in. But, man, the highlight was those New Japan guys. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, I completely agree. ROH, a great product, but obviously the highlight was seeing those New Japan wrestlers. But the entire experience was just amazing. I mean, I still almost feel a little bit bummed that we missed out last year, so I hope we get it again next year so that we can at least get 2 in. And would definitely do it again. Would definitely recommend it to anybody. Great venue, great event, just totally great night for sure. And I should add that in the end, I am a bit of an older gentleman, so there was a little bit of tiredness for me after 4.5 hours. And standing that long, I have arthritis. I'm old. I'm falling apart here, people. So it did kind of knock me out in the end. But again, just like those old ECW shows did, there was so much energy. It just drains you so much that by the end of it, you feel like you could sleep for decades.
Yeah, so usually it would be a couple days to recover from those shows too, eh?
Oh, exactly. Same type of thing. You're not going to have a very good night's sleep the next night, and probably not the night after that either.
My palms were just throbbing.
Yeah.
My jaw, I still can't open my mouth enough to brush my tongue. So thanks a lot, New Japan. Thanks a lot, Ring of Honor. It was definitely worth all of the physical ailments that I've experienced since the show.
Hey, Luke, just to let people know, what was the ticket price on those seats?
$40 for fifth row seats.
$40 for fifth row seats. I mean, you can't get better than that.
No, it was way worth that.
So, I want to encourage everybody to check out my brother's Fedcast, who were also in attendance. Got to introduce Ernest Matthews to Justin of Fedcast. So that was cool. Good little bit of the Mega Powers handshake going on there. And so check them out. They've also done a review of. They actually were at night 1 as well, so they will be reviewing night 1 and night 2 on their show this week, which is now up. And Ernest, are you telling me that you will reschedule your family plans? Because this is usually a big weekend for your family. So you're telling me that you're gonna reschedule the family plans next year?
Yeah, if we get the same type of talent coming our way next year, I'm going to go, and I'm going to do it up even bigger. I'll stay in Toronto for the weekend, whatever it takes, because that was just out of this world.
Shan, anything you want to say in closing before we get out of here?
Nothing except, I feel like I've been reintroduced to wrestling a little bit. Obviously having seen New Japan and Ring of Honor on TV and being really interested in it, but seeing it live, I don't think anything compares. So I'm a huge fan. I was a fan going in. I'm a huge fan now.
And this roster, if this was a roster, it could take over the world. Because you trimmed all the fat of Ring of Honor, you trimmed all the fat of New Japan, you put them together. Guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for spending time. I said it'd be 45 minutes. It's now an hour plus. But it's been great reliving that evening, and we'll do it again next year. Thank you from myself, from Ernest, from Shotgun Shan, the PPV Crew. Peace, love, and WrestlingAudioRevolution.com.